You're watching extras from the extension on Eagle Community Television. This show is brought to you by Caraco Implement.
Well, as the summer goes on and our hot weather conditions continue, I've been getting tons of phone calls about issues with our local trees. And unfortunately, as many of you are aware, we've had some pretty serious drought conditions in the last several years, and that continues to play a toll on some of our trees even now, despite the fact that we've had some decent moisture. That can have a delayed effect on trees, and so we're still seeing some stress from that. But I've also been having a lot of issues with some insect problems, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about a few of those today. One that I'm starting to get more phone calls out on right now is just because they're getting fairly large, and that's bagworms. You know, I talked about bagworms earlier in the season, but bagworms are a pest of primarily evergreens, although they can feed on just about anything, and they construct bags out of the foliage of that plant as they mature. And I always get questions about how to treat for them. And you know, this is the time of year that it is important to talk about that, because this is the time of year when they have closed their bags and they are no longer feeding. And so if we go out and spray, or if we treat our trees at this time of year, we are really doing no good. We're wasting our time and our chemical. And so you want to make sure and have the timing right for treating bagworms. To treat bagworms, most years we need to be treating around the end of June or the first part of July. And we're just simply past that window, so it would do no good to treat it this time. The only thing you could do right now is to hand pick these, and that's certainly an option if the tree is smaller, and you can go ahead and do that before next spring. So that's the first one that I wanted to mention. Another pest that's really starting to show up, or at least the damage is starting to show up, is the elm leaf beetle. So if you have elms in the landscape, you might see leaves that have kind of skeletonized or have a window pane appearance to some of the leaves. There's feeding in between the veins, and it just causes the leaves to turn kind of a brown or bronzy color. And when we have really hot winds, this becomes very pronounced because it just dries out those leaves and they turn brown. And so people get very concerned. But if you look at the undersides of the leaves, you might notice some elm leaf beetle larvae feeding. And there just happens to be one on this leaf here. And this is probably still of that first generation of elm beetle larvae. And so really not a lot to be concerned about at this time of year. However, there are 2 generations of this insect throughout the year, and so we do need to possibly treat for them if we have young trees especially. If it's an older mature tree, say a Chinese elm or an old American elm, a lot of times it's just aesthetics. It's not going to hurt the overall health of the tree, but that is one that I get a lot of questions about. So that's the elm leaf beetle larvae that are doing that type of damage. Another one that I wanted to mention, just because I'm starting to see some of it, is lace bug. Another one that just feeds on the foliage. It does not cause damage to the health of the tree overall, but it's more aesthetics than anything. And this is the little insect that causes the leaves to be kind of a bronzy color as well. They feed on the undersides of the leaves, so it's the top side of the leaf that looks kind of dusty or bronzed. And if you look, you'll see the actual little lace bugs, or if you don't find the lace bugs, you might find evidence of them being there from the black excrement that they leave behind. And so once again, this is something that we don't recommend you treat for, because it's more of aesthetics than anything else. And finally, one last thing I'll mention, and I know I've mentioned this before, but that's herbicide drift damage. If you see leaves on a tree that have kind of twisted and distorted and curled and cupped, you know, that's an indication of a chemical damage of some kind. And so unfortunately, there's nothing really that you can do to fix that other than just hope that the tree will outgrow it eventually. Maybe water the tree as needed if we have no rain, and hopefully with time that tree will outgrow that damage. But if you see twisted, distorted leaves, that is a sign of chemical damage, either via the roots or drift, which is the most common form that we see in this area. If you have questions about your trees or the damage that you may be seeing on the leaves, don't hesitate to contact the local extension office in your area. We have lots of great publications and fact sheets on a lot of the insects and problems that I've talked about today, so please contact us for more information. Reporting for K-State Research and Extension and Eagle TV, I'm Holly Dickman, Ellis County Horticulture Extension Agent.
You're watching extras from the extension on Eagle Community Television. This show is brought to you by Caraco Implement.
Spring is here, and that means it's time to come out and visit Carrickle Implement in Hays, Kansas for all your lawn care needs. We stock and sell the full line of John Deere riding lawn equipment, along with Honda walk-behind mowers and generators. We also offer the full lineup of steel power products. If your project requires even more muscle, check out our full lineup of John Deere compact tractors and skid loaders. And don't forget, we have the parts and services to keep you up and running all spring long. So whatever your spring lawn care and maintenance needs are, come on out to Carrickle Implement for a solution that fits.